All right. The next things I want to go through are concerning Creo. Okay, concerning Creo here. Let me blow this up. I'm going to select my working directory, and I'm going to just select that assembly lesson that I originally had. Assembly lesson, there we go. And I'm going to just open up a part, let's say the car body part. All right. If you take a screenshot of this part, let's say I take a screenshot of this, and I'm sure plenty of you know how to take screenshots on your, let's say I'm trying to get images for my final presentation or something like that. Okay, so I have that final screenshot, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in my document, and I'll paste it in here. I don't know if you can see that, but do you see how bad the resolution is on that image? See the jagged edges there and things like that? This is not what you want to do for your final project in terms of your presentation or your report. You need a better image than this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get a better image first off. So the first thing you can do is go to Applications. And then they have this button called Render Studio. And in Render Studio, this is where you get to do, you get to make nice photographs. So this is already a little better here. But up here, you can change the appearance. If you want to change the color of the part, let's say I want to do a different color, maybe change it yellow. I can select that and change it yellow. So I do that by selecting the color, selecting the part on the left-hand side, and then middle clicking to OK that. So middle click OKs the color. Okay, and up here I can change the scenes if I want. I usually like using a lighter colored background. So maybe I'll go to Edit Scene, and then the background, instead of environment, I'll just use a color, and I'll choose white. I think that shows up the best when you're putting it in a report. So doing that again, I go to Scenes, Edit Scene, and then background, I drop down and find color there, and I can change that to white. Now, how do I get a picture out of this? A nice image. Well, under Render here, this is where it goes through and processes everything to make a really nice photo. Up here is where it's going to save. It's going to save in my working directory, and I can rename this as car body or something like that, car body. All right, and this resolution's okay. You know, you can have or you can have a large image, small image, whatever you want. I always recommend going with a large image, and then you can always shrink it down in your report. Okay, and then your render settings. So under this plus at the bottom, it says use real-time settings. I uncheck that, and then really this is how good you want the photo to be. So performance mode, basic, product, full simulation, which should be a really high quality photo. And then when you click render, it's going to render this image. And it might take a little bit of time to get this done, depending on how complex your object is. And then if I go and I find that, my H drive, and then under assembly lesson, I should have this carbody.jpg here. And this is a really nice photo that I could probably put in my report. Okay, so you can rotate things if you want. You can reorient this and try to get the best photo that you can for your reports. So that's a way that you can get nice photos, and it really makes the report seem much more impressive. You know, for example, if you have zoomed in photos of showing different features, maybe you need to show holes or something like that in your product, different latches, things like that. Okay. So questions about how to get a nice photo from Creo. Don't do screenshots is what I'm getting at. Okay. So that's how to get nice photos. And now I want to show you something that might speed up your time of modeling. So if you go to assembly, I'm going to create a new assembly. And let's just say the first part I bring in is that car body again. And I always constrain the first part by default. Now, if you want to add more parts to this assembly, the kind of procedure has always been to go to File, New, create a new part, and then bring it into the assembly. But you can actually create new parts within this assembly. So let's say I want to create an axle that goes through this hole here. Now, I could go up to this, instead of assemble, this button here creates a new file in the assembly. And let's just call this an axle, maybe. How do you spell axle? That's axle, yeah. Axle, and then say okay. And then I can use a default constraint again. And now I have these two parts here. Now, obviously, this axle part is empty, but I can activate it. This little green button here, it goes through this in the book as well. So if I activate this part, it grays out everything else, and now I'm working on this axle part. So for example, I can create a sketch just on this face here. Maybe I want to create a circle. Maybe I want that inner axis as a reference, and I'll create a circle right there to the exact size of that hole. And now I can extrude that. And maybe I'll extrude it this far this way, and then we could do another out the other side, something like that. Okay. So I can check mark that. And that is my new axle part. Now, if I go back up to the full assembly up at the top and activate that, now I have this two-part assembly, which has both the car and the axle going through that. Let me turn off the... Now, why is this beneficial? Well, the one thing you can do, let's say you change the hole size, wherever that is, of these. Let me activate the car body part. And let's see if I can change the hole size here. So if I change the hole size, let's say I make that bigger. Which one is it? Is it this one? Let's say I go 0.75. How come it's not letting me make that any bigger? But let's try that again. Hole size. Okay, there we go. I'm making that hole bigger. And now, if I go back and activate the whole assembly and regenerate, it automatically updates that axle part as well. Because there's a relationship between these two parts. And it looks like I have a failed regeneration. I'm not sure why this is coming up. But anyway, this can be very handy to model a bunch of parts in the same file. So you can modify a bunch of parts in your assembly file, and you don't need to keep flip-flopping back and forth between the assembly file and the part file. Does that make sense? Just wanted to show you that because it's a huge time saver, especially on the final exam or the final project if you model this way. Looks like the chamfer can't be completed. That's why it's blowing up on me. That chamfer is now running into the hole size. So if I make that smaller, maybe it will work. Oh. Okay, 0.05. Maybe 0.02, I don't know. Yeah, that looks like that would work. Now I don't have a regeneration fail. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, very good. So I'll let everybody work. Hopefully you have a Creo assignment 6 in. So get that in if you don't have it in yet, and work on your final exam and your project.